Just some days to the end of the year, the date given to the troops in Nigeria's northeast to rout out Boko Haram. We're not being joined by a security expert, retired Captain Sunday Adoba, looking at the matters here. Good morning and thanks for joining us. We started looking at this, counting down to the big moment, and we just saw from the Minister of Information talking about the capacity of the Nigerian military to rout out the insurgents. So far, for some people, they say so good. Do you feel any different?
The reality on ground is that the military is up and doing, but I don't think we can objectively achieve the December deadline. Yes, if Mr. President had said as soon as possible, I would have been comfortable with that. But December deadline, to me, as a person who had been within the same Northeast for a period of time, I think it is a pipe dream.
What are those things that you see that is making you think quite differently from what we've heard so many people say?
One, our air platform is not as expected. We need a lot of helicopter gunship to drastically reduce and make the Boko Haram ineffective. For now, we don't have that. Secondly, fighting terrorism or insurgency is a mobility issue. We must be up and doing on a daily basis. We don't have the necessary intelligence networking to effectively curtail what is happening as of today. We need unmanned aircrafts for surveillance purposes to track these people. The Defense Intelligence Agency does not have this. And it creates a lot of gaps when you talk about effective intelligence for the operators. If the man in the field does not have the right intelligence, it is difficult for him to achieve his aim. And that is why you hear stories of missing soldiers here and there. They might not be true. But the issue is that, do we have the capacity to really precisely indicate one, location, strength of Boko Haram? The answer is no. Nobody on planet Earth today can tell you that this is the strength of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Nobody.
And you say without the air platform,
we can reach nowhere. The Army aviation has been in the pipeline for the past 40 years. Nothing is coming on stream. I pray and hope that the present Chief of Army Staff will be able to get the Army aviation into place. And not only just the Army aviation, the Air Force must really be encouraged to get enough helicopter gunships to be able to carry out effectively their role. For now, they are practically incapable of meeting the needs of the ground forces.
The picture you paint looks dire, but the efforts have been put in terms of equipping the military so far. The efforts that the military itself has been putting into end the insurgency. And right now we understand they've already entered into the Sambisa forest. Are you saying that even with these efforts and the strides they've taken so far, it's not possible?
The fact is that I appreciate the efforts of the present Chief of Army Staff, who on a weekly basis is physically at the battlefield. I appreciate the two GOCs, that's the GOC 3 Division, General Umar, the GOC 7 Division, General Deoshu. They have been doing a hellcome task, facing these people right at the point you don't expect them to be. They lead the men. In fact, they are the only people that motivate the men. We have problems as regards leadership within the lower cadre of the system. You don't have experienced hands. When we talk about going into Sambisa, what are you going to see in Sambisa?
So we don't have experienced hands?
Yes. A lot of problems.
Does that also translate into not having experienced commanders?
The experienced commanders is what we're talking about. For any army, the soldiers are always available for you. It is the leadership that brings the best out of them. Today you have GOCs who go to the level of section, platoon, company level to deploy soldiers. This is not done in any army. But here you are, GOCs are going right to the grassroots level to make sure that they instill that confidence in their men.
What happened to the experienced men?
Either they are not in the field or they don't exist. But we have had a very big gap in our training schools. And I pray that the President Chief of Army Staff will bridge that gap. And what am I saying? We have the Training and Doctrine Department of the Nigerian Army called TRADOC. TRADOC oversees the entire training schools. But my fear is that TRADOC has not been up and doing in supervising these schools. So that even if they do, the logistics that are required in these schools to make them function as real training schools are lacking. Can guarantee you that most schools you go to today, they don't have vehicles to move their men into exercises. The same thing you have in the units that are confronting Boko Haram.
You know, there was a time we had issues about communication, that so many base stations have been brought down by the insurgents. One thought that the Nigerian military had its own means of communication, other than the traditional one, which we hear, the conventional means of communication, which is the cell phones. Walkie-talkies, your own communication unit, do we still have that within the Nigerian military?
We do, but the greatest problem confronting the Nigerian army all these years has been communication and basically logistics. We've not been able to get our acts right. And most of the problems confronting us, even when we have these inter-service operations, you discover that the commander on ground cannot communicate effectively with the pilot. So most times there is always confusion. And not until, yes, I agree there are a few ground-to-air radio handsets given to the commanders, but most times they find it difficult. Coupled with the fact that the Boko Haram we are talking about are people who are dressed like us, use the same camouflage vehicles like us. Apart from the cap, which they don't like to use, they use their normal scarf or whatever. Everything about Boko Haram is what you see in us. So it is difficult from the air for you to actually say, this is Nigerian army or friendly forces. And it has created a lot of problems for us. Even this issue we had in Godumbali, it was one of those factors. So we have problem. We have serious communication problem. It has been with us for years. Even throughout our stay in Liberia, Sierra Leone, we had the same problem.
I know it
Okay,
okay, go ahead, Amanda.
Captain, you talked a lot about aerial warfare and all of that. You've talked about the challenge of communication and all of that. But some experts have said that the terrorism war is more emotive. Shouldn't the government be looking outside, just arming? Yes, it's important, the military, but also invest more in the area of surveillance and intelligence.
That is our greatest shortcoming today. We need a lot of these unmanned aircrafts to be able to get total control of our airspace in terms of the boundaries, the border lines, and then give pinpointed, accurate targets. For instance, an artillery officer, he needs accurate information to be able to deliver wherever he's expected to in terms of his firepower. But if he does not have the current maps, if he does not have the current data he needs, it's difficult. The problem with the Nigerian military setup is that, take the defense intelligence, for instance. We rely almost 99.9% on human intelligence. The technical intelligence does not exist. And if we do not have that technical intelligence, how do we talk of technical countermeasures against even our so-called friendly neighbors, not to talk of even the embassies around us? We hardly have this grip on them. And that's why I'm thinking that the present Minister of Defense, Dan Ali, will be able to look at these things critically. And I pray that this is not the era of envelope budgeting, whereby before you even dream of bringing out what you want, you have been told this is the much you can spend. Intelligence Take, for instance, the American, before the 9/11, they spent almost $35 billion on just technical intelligence. And here we are, nothing to show for.
I thought we were building, especially during the early 80s when President Shehu Shagari came on board. We were building, and after the military takeover, one would have thought that the military government at that time, from even President Buhari, Babangida, Abacha, should have been able to well equip the Nigerian military.
If I want to be sincere, apart from the civil war, the best time the military ever had was Shagari regime. Everything you could think about equipment were flowing to this country. We were well armed. The armored corps, the infantry, the engineers, the artillery, everyone had enough of these materials. They came in. Unfortunately, we have a problem in the society. Our greatest problem is that the more you have the coup, the more you become useless, because nobody wants you to touch your equipment. I was in Dodam Barracks for about 2 years as an anti-aircraft air defense officer. I could not go to touch my gun. I could not service my gun. It was just there.
Why?
Because going there, you become a threat to the head of state. So many times we tried even to service them, we were not allowed. So you see, when this problem of military in governance comes into play, you discover that it erodes your entire professionalism.